All right, let's kick it off.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Grey Matter podcast. You're with your host, Nick, and down the line, virtually once again, I have our resilience man, Rod Warner. How are you, Rod?
I'm extraordinarily well. It's nice to see you on the Zoom that we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. A bit chilly this morning.
It is. Well, after a lovely weekend, I think it's a good start.
Very true. So before we kick off today's episode, I've got a bit of housekeeping for the listeners. Two things. One, we launched our Grey Matter podcast Instagram during the week. So we're going to be posting some of the sort of key insights from each of the episodes so that we can interact a bit closer with the listeners that have Instagram. So jump onto @the Grey Matter podcast on there. And we also launched on YouTube as well. So we're putting up full episodes for people to watch on YouTube. We don't actually video a lot of the episodes just yet. I suppose we've all been working in isolation for the last little while. And as everyone knows, on a Zoom call, if you have the video on, it does sort of tend to sometimes lag and that sort of thing. So generally we've gone against recording the video and just got the audio so that it's a bit clearer for everyone. But in the odd event that we do film an episode, I think episode 11 I did with Chris, we did a video, that one. So yeah, we're going to put them all up on YouTube for you, full episodes for those of you that listen on there. Housekeeping out of the way, Rod, we can jump into today's topic, which is going to be an announcement. Finally, we've been working on this in the background for a fair while, of our new resilience webinar series, How to Keep Your Shit Together in Difficult Times. I love that name. Rod, you've been working in the field of resilience for the last 10, 12 years. You've written articles. You've actually written a book as well. You've addressed conferences, run hundreds of workshops on resilience in multiple countries around the world. Very, very established. I promise I'm not pumping your tires up. But this series that we're going to be launching next month, it's a bit different to the normal resilience offerings that you're used to running. I mean, our usual resilience offerings are our two flagship workshops. This series is something that's a bit different. So I guess to kick things off, why this series and why now?
So first of all, thanks for all those comments. It's always a little embarrassing listening to them, but thank you. You're right. You know, right now, of course, we're going through this unprecedented times of working from home, people losing their roles, kids being schooled from home, loving couples sometimes being put together a little bit longer than they would like. And I thought, well, you know, let's do something to help people through this shitstorm, how bad this is and how awful this is and how, you know, struggling people are. And when you have a look at some of these stats about how people are struggling, Beyond Blue and our other fabulous resources are reporting some very alarming statistics about people who are not coping and people who are at the receiving end of violence. What can we do to help people? And there's so much that we can do. There's so many tools and techniques that we have about how to help people during difficult times. And that's where this comes from, is how do we help people through difficult times? And the more that I thought about this, I thought, you know, heavens above, this is just one difficult time. It's a particular difficult time with a particular frame, but isn't life full of shitstorms? It's one after another. I mean, if it's not this, then it's finances. And if it's not finances, it's health, your loved one's health, your parents' health. It's the neighbor, it's the kids. Life is a series of difficulties that we have to get through and endure. And the one reaction is you put your life on hold. You wait till this awful thing is finished and then I'm going to be happy. And that just is not going to work because there's going to be another one at the end of this. So we looked at this and we thought, let's change the focus to handling ongoing shitstorms and taking your life from unhappy to not just adequate, but from adequate, hopefully, to excellence, or in business terms, from good to great. How can we live our lives despite what's going on and have the happiest, most joyful, most fulfilling life that we can, despite what's going on? So then said, okay, what would we package? What would we put together to do this, to take life from adequate to excellence? And we came out with 4 particular areas. The first was the story that you bring to your life. How do you interpret what is happening in your life and have perspective and deal with things right now? The second one is the capabilities that you bring to endure, to cope, to deal with stuff, and the capabilities that you have for love and happiness and enjoyment. And that is your personal strengths and your energy. The third focus would be around stress reactions. And the funny thing is, not just the trite, well, you must eat better, sleep better, don't drink so much alcohol, which, I mean, if you're like me, all 3 of those go completely out of the...
I was going to chime in there and say something, Rod.
Well, I mean, it's so easy to say those things, and you must go and get
everyone
exercise.
knows them.
Yeah, and you don't do them, right?
Right.
So stress is much more than the solutions that are trotted out. And the fourth one is around relationships. So I wanted to look at some myths. I wanted to look at the capability that we have going into relationships, that we say, well, the other person must meet my needs and must be kind to me and must not be so confrontational and must discuss issues. All those musts and shoulds, we must look at that. Your responsibility and your culpability in terms of what you create, and then within that, how to have conflict and how to deal with conflict and to take your relationship from good to great. And so the summary, the underpinning of this whole thing, funnily enough, the title is How to Keep Your Shit Together, but actually the underpinning is more than that. It is how to take your life from an adequate life to an excellent life. And that's the exciting offering that I think we're going to be putting together.
Wow, excellent. And there's a lot to unpack there. I had a few questions straight off the bat, but I'll start with this. I guess I wanted to ask you a bit about where each of these tools and techniques comes from.
Good question. Okay, so it's from resilience backgrounds as well as neuroscience. So particularly the brain biology of why things are like they are, and in particular, how to disrupt unhelpful circuitry and change to more helpful circuitry. And the other fields that we'll be looking at is a whole lot from positive psychology and from various researchers, but there's a whole lot of integration of other academic disciplines from psychology, from coaching, and from pathology as well.
Excellent. No, very, very good. So, Rod, who is this really for? Who would benefit from this series?
Right. So anyone who wants to, first of all, deal with stuff in their lives. It's going to be applicable to people in the workplace, but also at home.
Yeah.
The focus is on you as a person, and particularly the last webinar is you with your loving relationships, which is mostly your partner and, in fact, your teenage children or just pre-teenage children who can engage with the kind of things that we're going to be talking about. But it is as relevant for work as at home. So for the busy executive, it's absolutely aimed at them. For the university graduate just starting a new career and struggling with office politics and work-life balance, which of course, is an impossible thing, and there's the whole conversation around that, and struggling with new relationships, loving relationships, and leaving home and starting money and finances issues. It's relevant for them as well. People who have got an adequate life, but people who say, wow, there must be more to life. There must be a way of taking my life from good to great, taking my life from what I'm experiencing at the moment and having more joy and happiness where I can get through the stuff of life quickly and focus on and have more of what brings me joy and fulfillment.
Excellent, because I definitely think that this situation, while it's been hard on everyone, I think it's been very difficult on those that are very new to the workforce or those that, maybe they've been in their graduate role for 3, 4, 5 years now, and they were sort of seeing the path up the corporate ladder, shall we say, or they might have been comfortable with the position that they were in, how they were tracking along before all of this sort of hit. I think there is a definite need for some of these tools and techniques amongst those that are early in their career. Generally, when you've got to that executive level, there are tools and techniques that you will have already picked up throughout your career, obviously, but those that are earlier in their career wouldn't have had exposure to some of these high-level tools and techniques that you're out there teaching to those C-suite level executives as per normal. They will not have had exposure to some of these techniques. I think this is a great opportunity for those that are anywhere up to that 10 years in, especially. And as you said, it will suit those at any stage of their career. But I just think that there's a real opportunity for those that are sort of earlier than 10 years into their career to really take some of these learnings and hopefully progress on a personal level, but as well on a professional level. So, Rod, I suppose we should go into how people can access these webinars and how we can get people to sign up. I will put a link in the show notes straight to the website so that people can sign up. That will be sort of home base for everything to do with this webinar series. So you'll find all the information. We've got little videos on there of Rod talking about each of the webinars as well, just in case you've forgotten from this podcast. The dates and times that we've locked in for the 4 webinars are starting the 2nd of next month, that first week of next month, running once a week for the next 4 weeks in that month. So we've got the 2nd, the 10th, the 16th, and the 23rd. They will always be at midday till 1 o'clock, just so that it's not going to impact your workday too much. We wanted to make sure it did land over lunch so that you don't miss out on too much work, because we know everyone will be very busy in this time, of course. Make sure you go and check out on our website all the sort of finer details about it. And of course, for those that can't make those times, still book in with the webinar that you'd like to attend, and you'll of course be able to access the recording afterwards. So we will be recording them and making them available for a period of time after the webinar is finished. I personally do that with a lot of the webinars that I actually attend and watch as well, Rod. I know we were talking about that before we jumped on the podcast today. So make sure you jump onto our website. Like I said, the link will be in the show notes, and you can check out all the information and sign up. We've worked very hard on it over the last sort of couple of months on making sure we got the content that was going to be relevant no matter what stage of a shitstorm that you're in. And of course, like you said, so that we can handle future shitstorms as well, because this isn't going to be the only shitstorm that are affecting people in their lives, right?
Correct, yes.
Rod, thank you very much for jumping on today.
Great pleasure.
And we'll see you next time in the Grey Matter podcast.
I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Nick.